elevated. The more serious form of edema in anorexia is part of the refeeding syndrome. You're probably familiar with the studies of Ansel Keys in the 1940s with conscientious objectors that didn't want to get drafted. We can't do that anymore, but they sent them off and they did medical experiments on these people that didn't want to get drafted. And Keys starved a group of men for months, and he did serial x-rays on them and showed that their heart size got smaller and smaller on a plain chest x-ray. Then about 5 years later, when people were liberated from the Nazi concentration camps, made it out, were liberated by the Red Cross and the U.S. Army, they were given high caloric foods, and tens of thousands of people who had lived under horrific conditions for years died within few days of liberation. And people said this makes no sense. Here they lived malnourished for years. We're giving them food. Why are they dying? And there was an astute doctor captain in the U.S. Army that wrote in his memoirs that those prisoners of war who were given chocolate milk and chocolate bars from Hershey's, they lived. And the people that were given donuts and pasta and bread, they died. And as you know, for the dietitians in the room, the best source of phosphorus is chocolate milk. And this was the first manifestation of the refeeding syndrome. Anorexia is a sobering model of what can happen in this regard. If you willy-nilly are refeeding an anorectic and not checking their labs closely for the first few weeks, you'll precipitate refeeding hypophosphatemia, and if you're not paying attention, you'll precipitate the full-blown refeeding syndrome. This should not occur. It's totally preventable. Why does it occur? Let's go through that quickly. So you have an anorectic that comes into your hospital, or for the medicine docs in the room, this is a homeless person who hasn't been eating. Denver Health is a big safety net hospital in Denver that I ran for many years and worked at for 30 years. We have a lot of alcoholics and homeless people that come in. If you're not paying attention, or you have a gunshot wound victim who's NPO for 2 weeks, and you start to feed them aggressively and don't check their phos, you're going to see this as well. So this is a person who has been starved for a couple weeks. Their phosphorus level is still normal because they haven't been eating, but then you challenge them with carbohydrates and calories. What happens when you give someone carbohydrates and calories? They secrete insulin. What does insulin do to phos? Insulin drives phosphorus intracellularly. And what does insulin also do? It causes the body to start the initiation of the Krebs cycle, etc., where we make ATP and ADP and 2,3-DPG. The P in all of those, as you well know, is phosphorus. So you have two forces that are dropping your serum phosphorus level. You have the driving of phos intracellularly due to the effect of insulin, and number two, you're sopping up phos because you're making ATP and ADP because you're finally seeing food. As a result of that, if the phosphorus level continues to fall, you develop serum hypophosphatemia, and if you're not paying attention and you're not checking it and you're not treating it and repleting it, you now are not able to make 2,3-DPG. You can't make any more ADP or ATP. And as a result of that, glycolysis goes down. And as a result of that, you get tissue hypoxia. You get CHF. The diaphragm can't move. You get seizures in the brain. You get hemolysis of the red cells. And that's the refeeding syndrome. That's what killed the people after World War II. That's what killed people when TPN was created in 1969 at the University of Pittsburgh on a burn unit. They needed to feed people that were 90% total body burned. They obviously couldn't open their mouths, so they invented TPN. They started 8 patients on TPN on a Wednesday morning, and by Thursday afternoon, all 8 patients were dead. And they figured must be sepsis, must be air embolus, must be this or that. It turned out it was hypophosphatemia. They had undetectable phosphorus levels as a result of the high dextrose calories in the TPN solution.